Welcome back to the Bolt Moto channel. In today's video we've got a full exhaust on this Honda, a diagnostics on this Ducati and a full accident repair on a Honda PCX. I hope you enjoy this video and be sure to like and subscribe if you do. So let's crack on with the video. Welcome back to another video and another very miserable day in January. It might be a bit cold and wet outside, but the grind never stops. So today I'm on my way to go and fit a full exhaust system to a Honda CB 650F. Enjoy. This customer wanted his Honda to sound a bit louder. This kills the sound, so he bought this to make it sound like this, and it's my job to fit it. So let's crack on. We're going to start by getting all these panels off. With the side panels removed, I can now gain access to the full exhaust. I need to go to the other side first to unplug the O2 sensor, undo the two bolts at the back which you can't quite see on the camera, and then undo all the header bolts. Can be a little bit fiddly to get in there, however it wasn't too bad, and in no time the old exhaust system was off. This O2 sensor needs to come out and be put aside for the new exhaust, but it's safe to say we are making good progress. Time to get the old exhaust gaskets out as we've got some new ones with the new exhaust. Here are the old ones, time to throw them away because we don't need them anymore. Now we can get to unboxing the new exhaust. With the new exhaust unboxed and ready to go, it's time to get the exhaust gaskets in first before fitting the header pipes. Now I fit these loosely to begin with, make sure the entire system is on and everything lines up before going over and tightening everything up. This is the mid part of the exhaust and that's where the O2 sensor comes in. It does have an extra hole, but the exhaust comes with blanking plugs to put in there. Time to get this bracket on now, which holds the middle part of the exhaust. And after a little bit of fiddling around, I can get the end can on and get it all loosely bolted up. With the exhaust now tacked on, I can put the springs on. You can see the little hooks there, and that's where these springs go. They also fit where the down pipes meet the middle pipe, which can be a bit fiddly. And now it's time to plug the O2 sensor back in on the other side. One thing that is super important whenever you fit a new exhaust is cleaning all your fingerprints off with brake cleaner beforehand and any glue. This prevents any marks showing up on the exhaust. Now that that's been sorted, it's time to hear it run. It's safe to say that it already sounds insane. It's crazy how much noise that standard exhaust was actually hiding. Now everything's been run up and I've checked over all the nuts and bolts again, it's time to get the side panel back on and get this bike reassembled. Luckily on these you only need to take the right side panel off and the bottom trim panel to get access to the exhaust. In go the last few Allen bolts now, and then this bike is done. People are going to have their opinions on lots of different things when it comes to exhaust, but it's safe to say this looks and sounds a hell of a lot better than it did before. The customer was very happy with how it looked, so it's time to get everything packed away and move on to the next job. This Ducati Diavel was in because the ignition wasn't turning on. The customer said he left it for a few months without riding it. Now he had a problem with that right handlebar switch before, hence why it's not on the bar. But we have no ignition, so it's time to take a look. So the first thing I want to take a look at is the key. Now these bikes have keyless ignition. This works by the key fob sending a signal to the hands-free receiver and that telling the bike when to run. Something very common is the batteries die in the keys. As it's the easiest thing to get to, I decided to split the key, get the old battery out and put a new battery in the key. However, even with that new key battery, we still had no ignition. Next thing to look at is the battery itself. Now the customer had put it on a trickle charger, but that doesn't mean that the battery's not knackered. When the battery was out, I could put a multimeter to it to check that it actually had 12 volts, which it did, and then I could put a battery drop tester to it, which is what this thing is here. This puts load through the battery to see if it's weak or strong, which This showed that the battery was strong enough to run the bike, so it was time to start digging a little bit deeper. The hands-free and steering lock module on these are right at the front. I took the side panels off to check the wiring around the front, and everything was fine. But I had to be very careful with these panels as a lot of them are carbon fibre. Next, I went to the back of the bike and thought I'd start checking fuses. Now, all of these fuses were okay, so it's time to check them with a multimeter. After checking on the Ducati manuals, I knew which fuses should have power with the ignition off, and everything was working fine. So at the moment, everything's pointing towards that keyless ignition system having a fault, which means it'll have to go to Ducati. But that's when I found this out. Yep, the ignition just came on and you could actually get the bike started. Why did this work? Let me explain. The key fob in these has an antenna in it, and if you sometimes drop or damage the key, that can damage the antenna, which means this hands-free receiver can't pick up the signal. But if you put the key on the back of the clocks where the receiver is, you can actually get the bike started. So good news that the bike runs, but it does need to go to Ducati because it's more than likely going to need a new key, and that will need resyncing with Ducati's specific software. A little bit of a head scratcher, but time to get the bike plugged back into its trickle charger and go through the next steps with the customer to get his bike fixed. So without further ado, let's crack on with the next job. Yep, we've got another Honda PCX 125 in, this time for accident repair. Unfortunately, a car pulled out on this guy and his bike's left a little bit worse for wear. So we've got a fresh box of parts, let's get it sorted. First thing I'm going to do is remove his handguards, and then I'm going to remove the front panel off the bike. I can then start undoing any screws and little clips that go on the inside of the panel. The first panel is relatively simple to come off, but the other ones aren't so simple. You see, this panel here that's damaged actually goes all the way along the side of the bike to here. Most of the panels are held in with these clips, but there are some other holes that take screws, so it's time to start unbolting things and see which order these panels actually come off. With the bottom panel off, it's time to have a look at the new foot plate panel to see where exactly it screws in. This can give me an idea of which panel comes off first. I'm removing the bolts here now as they need to come out anyway, but I'm also removing the rear foot peg as the panel actually goes over it. Where this panel meets the rear panel, you can see here that it's actually bolted behind it, so the rear panel needs to come off first. To do that, I need to start removing the rear rack. You take a panel off first, the rear rack comes off underneath, and then you can go ahead and start removing this side panel. Most of it is loose down here, but I need to go behind the panel and undo these screws, two of which hold the rear light in place and save me having to remove the rear light and the entire right side of the bike as well. It's a bit of a tight squeeze, but I'm using this tool here which can get in and get those screws out. And although it's a little bit fiddly, the panel comes right off. This now gives me access to remove the front panel and the foot plate. Time for me to go ahead and remove the foot plate and then go ahead and remove that panel. Last few plastic clips now and the panel comes off. It's crazy how bare this bike looks without its panels, but now that all the damaged parts are off, it's time to start getting those new panels on. I can start by getting the foot plate tacked on in place, and then I can go ahead and get that huge left side panel on. Once they're in place, I can then go ahead and put the rear panel on. This panel can just click into place, and then I have to go ahead and put those rear light screws back in, any other screws and trim bolts, but there are also two plastic clips that go on the inside of the seat bucket. You can see those here. One more in the bottom, and then that rear side panel is pretty much on. Now it's time for me to get that rear rack bolted into place and get that trim panel fitted to the top as well. This just clicks into place and then you put the final two screws in. This bike is really starting to come together now. All we've got to do is head back to the front, get those last few panels on and get any little trim pieces fitted. On goes the bottom panel and the first of the rubber mats. Then I can fit this panel before fitting the other rubber mat. I have to go on the inside to put all those little push clips back in place, not to forget fitting the rear passenger foot peg. Now it's just time for me to fit this front panel back onto the bike. This clips into place and then has two screws at the front which are right underneath the screen. And with those final two screws in, the bike's done. What a great transformation for this crashed Honda PCX. Going off the quote he got from Honda, they would have written the bike off, so it's nice to give this bike a second chance to get it back looking new again. The customer is over the moon with how this looks, and so am I. That does mark the end of the video today. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far in, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.